In this episode, we turn the mic over to students to hear directly how they're using AI in and out of the classroom, and what they wish educators and administrators better understood about it. I'm joined by student leaders who share how tools like ChatGPT and Gemini support everything from writing and studying to college applications, creative work, and feedback. We talk honestly about the mixed messages students receive from teachers, the difference between using AI to get through an assignment versus using it to learn more deeply, and how AI is exposing some long-standing challenges in school design. The conversation offers a clear takeaway for educators. AI isn't going away, and student voice is essential if we want to use it in ways that truly support learning. Check it out. So enjoy your ride to or from school, your run on the treadmill, or however you like to listen, because another MASSP podcast episode starts now. All right, Matt. Well, thank you so much for grabbing some students from Michigan Student Leadership to join us for the podcast episode. I'm excited to hear from them again. I know you've had a chance to really elevate student voice around the concept of teaching and learning from the student lens with AI. We've been to conferences where they had a chance to present with Michigan Virtual. MASSP did our own conference, Catalyst Conference. We did a student panel there, and I thought it was really, really eye-opening to the people in the room, and a great reminder to make sure that students have a seat at the table when they are discussing policy and just how we want to use AI with intent, with teaching and learning. And so I'm excited to learn from the guests that you brought with us today. So thanks for being here, Matt. And I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce.
No problem at all. We're no strangers to the podcast and trying to get as much information and content out, into our space as possible. This one's a little bit unique because we get a chance to be joined by members of the Michigan Student Board of Delegates. So on our side, on the student side of MASSP, we actually have 30 students from across the state of Michigan. They are elected positions. They get to serve a center region of the state. And part of their role in that center region is to be the student lens and the student voice of our association. The concept of voice can go in a lot of different directions. Obviously, they give us tons of different ideas, tons of different targets that we try to achieve each and every year for our not just for principals, not just for educators, but for our member students across the state. And AI has been one of our focal points for the past year and a half, so much so that our board decided to create an ad hoc group, which is an AI ambassador board. So I'm joined by a few members of our student board team who have I wouldn't call it a passion for AI, but AI is affecting students quite a bit differently than it's affecting educators. And we get a chance for this episode of the podcast to really dive into what AI looks like from the student lens.
Awesome. So I really appreciate the group that's here today. You're going to be able to hear from the students here multiple different times, and they all might answer some of the questions, I'm sure. Others might take certain ones, but obviously just feel free to share your perspective because people aren't listening to hear from Matt and I. They're here to listen from you all. And so we're going to dive right in with our first question. So I want to start off with just your day-to-day life. So not school policy. How are you personally using AI right now? And if you want to mention in school, that's fine. But I'm also curious, just is it helping you with hobbies or creative projects or just everyday problem solving? Anybody want to take that one first?
Yeah, I can certainly take it. First of all, thank you, Mr. Casey, for having us on. And for those at home, my name is Nick Krebs, and yeah, I'll just take it away. So without school policy, without any of that, I think the big three that I use AI for is emails. First, as the chairman of my service committee for the Youth Advisory Council here in Muskegon County, I have to talk to different people in and outside of the committee, community leaders, and it becomes stressful because if you're familiar with emailers, there's a lot of communication going back and forth. And so having a platform I use, Grammarly, to just type in my notes, to type in exactly what I want to say, that newsletter that I usually kick out there, it allows it to be more efficient for me, and it helps them too, because sometimes when I'm typing all of my things out, I can forget grammar rules and all that kind of stuff, and structure. It can get a little crazy. And then the next thing I would say is, for AP Seminar last year, I used to define sources. That was one of the big things that we could use AI for, was sources for our projects, for our research projects. And so I think the big thing that AI helped me use with is not only finding sources to help me kind of achieve what I wanted to achieve, but it kind of sort of branched out. It helped me grow my thinking. And then the last thing was, of course, for anyone who's in AP chemistry knows that we're going to get some questions wrong, and AI really helped me understand those things that I got wrong, and helped me kind of see the areas I need to improve. And not only that, but help me practice for tests. So AI really helped.
And I'm going to jump in already, Nick. Just quick follow up, and I love how you talk about AI helping close the gaps, especially in your learning. You mentioned that getting to sources, right? Drilling on sources, one of the things that you were allowed to use AI from. And you mentioned a couple specific classes. Now, definitely don't call any teachers out, but when you're looking at your schedule, would you say that most of your teachers are on board or have some type of AI classroom policy where you're able to use some of these tools and tactics across the board, or is it, hit or miss throughout the day for when you're allowed to use some of these AI tools?
Yeah, I mean, I think now, especially when AI is growing a lot, um, some teachers some teachers are like, yes, let's use AI. I'll help you use it for tests, to find answers, not test answers, I should say, but help us create practice tests and that kind of stuff. Sources to my AP seminar teacher. But for more English, my English teachers especially will very rarely have us use AI, and that's understandable. But I think that it is very hit or miss, especially, like I said, like I mentioned before, it's growing. A lot of people don't know about it. People do, and so it's hard, particularly at my school, because like I said, one teacher is like, "Yes, let's do it," and one teacher is like, "Absolutely not."
Anyone else want to share how they're using it kind of just personally day to day?
I can go next. Thank you again for the opportunity for us to speak on here. And thank you to Matt for just always being so supportive and giving us these opportunities. My name is Caroline Hammer, and I go to Fraser High School, and I'm currently a senior. So I think that I find myself using AI a lot, and I think I use it a lot to just benefit me with certain things. I think one thing I've used it a lot through is the college application process, because as a lot of educators and people know, like applying to different types of schools, looking at scholarships, looking at statistics, all these things, it's just like a lot to comprehend as a senior in high school. So I think I found myself using it, just kind of like asking it like my stats and like kind of telling me like which school it thinks would fit me best, like what I want to like tailor my major to, and like what maybe specific, like I applied to Michigan, so I very much like asked it, like which school do I apply to within U of M, and just like a lot of stuff like that. And then I also use it a lot to talk about like my future and clubs and things. Like I talk about a lot, like kind of like telling it like the things that I like, and like kind of recommending me like what pathway should I take next in life, or like what's like a good idea to kind of tailor my passions. And I'm also an athlete, so I run cross country year round and track. So I find myself using it a lot for like to understand my like passion and like just different things. Like I'll ask it like how much protein I should be eating, or like what I should be taking to like supplement my lifting routine, or like how many miles a week I should be doing, like alongside like lifting, and like all these things, or like how much rest days I should be taking. So I find myself like looking at the logistics of my sport a lot through it. And then lastly, I use it a lot for hobbies too, to kind of like give me, I think like a lot of like in today's world, a lot of things cost a lot of money, and like especially specific hobbies. Like I find, so I self-taught myself piano, which is really fun, but like to learn piano is very expensive, and to like buy sheet music and all these things. So like I find myself, I'll turn to ChatGPT a lot, and I'll like ask it like how to teach me a specific note category, or like a song that I really like, hey, could you turn this into a set of notes for me so I can like understand how to play it. So I find myself kind of like using it a lot when I can't find sheet music for stuff.
That's awesome. I have my oldest daughter is a junior, and she's in the, you know, searching out colleges, very interested in nursing. I was just looking at one today, and I was thinking to myself, man, AI is going to be very helpful when it comes to checking to make sure you're hitting all these requirements for all these applications and scholarships. And so I'm really glad you said that. So
which is actually really cool. And it's
Yeah.
nothing new. Anybody's had their thumb on the pulse. I mean, this is what you and I used to Google, is now almost like conversational research. And Caroline, the only follow-up I had, when you're saying, I use it, are we talking Chat GPT, Gemini? Do you have a favorite tool that do you tend to lean more towards?
I would say so. I like ChatGPT because I think it's like I've used it the most. So I think it just is like tailored to like the way, like it very much like the way like its responses are tailored to the way that I want it. Cause it's kind of like picked up on like the way that like I'm very much like an English history person. So like I'm very much like word based, like not numbers and statistics. Like my ChatGPT has like knows that. So it like kind of like formats like responses in a way that like my brain understands and kind of like takes out, I would say, like some of the statistical part that like is harder for me to maybe understand. But my dad pays for Gemini Pro. So like when it comes to like using like media uploads, I'll use that because it's better for like media uploads.
Very cool.
absolutely. I think Nick touched on this a couple minutes ago, but I'd like to hear from some of the others in terms of when you look at all of your classes and the consistency. I'm curious to know, what does it look like in your classes across the board? Is it all over the place? Like as Nick mentioned, maybe not so much. It's not being used in English classes, but it is being used in other types of classes or science classes. Are you seeing that? Most teachers, I'll say it this way, most teachers just say that kids just use it to look up all their answers and cheat, right? Like, I'm assuming that probably does happen in some cases, but I would just like to know, what are you seeing from your peers in the classroom day-to-day use?
Yeah, I can answer that. What I see is that, yeah, a lot of people do, use ChatGPT, Gemini to search up answers, but there's also a reason for that because they don't have a sense of direction of how to use AI. Like if I were to use AI, oh, my teacher gives me an assignment and I were to use AI for it, and I didn't have a direction of it, I'm going to use the most logical way to use it. I'm going to just, search up answers and save my time. So I would do something else that I would more rather do. But also, I have friends who have clearly identified on how they want to use AI. So like personally me, I use many AI apps like Notebook LM, RemNote, ChatGPT, obviously. And all of these tools have a specific purpose. Like RemNote I use for my flashcards. I plug in, simple concepts. I practice 5 to 10 minutes every day. And it helps me, like it helps improve my memory, it helps me understand the concept better. And it uses AI to contextualize my notes into these flashcards. So it saves me a bunch of time on that. Notebook LM, I participate in a lot of essay competitions. I upload my sources that I've read. And if I have any questions about them, I just ask the questions and it gives me clear, concise answers, which I can then apply to, whatever I write. But obviously there's like, both sides to it when you're using AI to replace your thinking and instead of complementing it.
Awesome. Those are great examples. I remember you speaking earlier about the RemNote, and I shared that with my high school daughters, by the way, and I think they're using it now. So I appreciate that recommendation.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Maybe Kate, you want to share kind of what you're seeing in the classes at your school?
Yeah, 100%. So within my classes, I feel like it's all over with how teachers and students want to use AI. I don't want to call anyone out, but some of my teachers are like super, super against it. A story in one of my classrooms is like a teacher was like really proud of how his students were doing in his class. And he was really pumped up, and he went to a teacher development, and all the other teachers were like, yeah, your students are using AI for all your assignments. And he was quite upset about that. But I've also seen multiple times where teachers are like encouraging us to use AI. Personally, my leadership teacher loves to use AI and loves to see us using AI to create ideas to involve our school into more activities. It's hard to think of things that can involve everyone and things that everyone will enjoy, but using AI is just another way to like make it easier for us. And it's not like it's doing everything for us. It's just making a base plan that we get to actually act it out, which I think makes AI so much more, I can't think of a word for it, but it just makes it better for us. There's many times where I've used it for different classes. Like just recently, I've used it on Canva a lot to make videos for a media campaign we had to do. and our teachers are usually pretty okay with that as long as we're still using our own ideas and our own prompts within it. Like as long as you're still using your own like ideas, your own brain to think of how you want to use the AI, and you're not letting AI make up the whole work, usually the teachers are pretty okay with it.
That's a good segue into my next question, because if you are getting assignments, how are you deciding whether it's worth investing the time to really deeply understand the concepts versus, man, I just gotta get this finished? And do some of your teachers, as somebody mentioned earlier, are any one of them taking the time to really outline and show you the expectation of how you could use it in the appropriate way for that work?
Yeah, I can answer this question. Most of my teachers do not outline a way, and I feel like personally that's because of the speed at most classes go at. They don't have time to, specifically outline this, especially since it's, a new concept, and to implement that will take time. But it all depends on time. Like if I want to save a lot of time and if I think this certain assignment is shallow, I will use AI, to help me on that specific assignment. But there's also cases where I understand that, oh, this specific topic weighs more on the test that's going to come, or this specific topic is going to, be important on the AP exam. I spend time on it, more, ask AI questions, ask AI to give me quizzes. And by AI, I mean ChatGPT, RemNote, NotebookLM, all those tools. No, yeah, just based on how much it is important to the curriculum and to what I feel is important to me and where I am, in my academic career.
Anyone else?
I'll kind of go off from what Ridham said. I think that yeah, I teachers it's hard. Time is difficult. Time is of the essence. So I think that within the scope of the question, though, I think that it's hard for people to understand when it's okay to use AI, when should I learn deeply, and I think AI can be used for both. Like you can really use AI to learn something super deeply, like I mentioned AP Chem, where I'm trying to understand what this is and this equation means and what this math problem means, and so it's hard. So I mean for kids at home and for leaders across the Michigan, I think I find it I would question um, or caution students a little to really like ask if it's okay for me to just do this because I want to get this done and I don't really want to learn. I mean, we're here at school to learn, to take in information. So I think when we're using AI though, I think that we should use it ethically and have some integrity in it. So I think when using AI we learn, but getting that information like seeing like how are we supposed to use AI correctly? I think that's where teachers and leaders need to come together and find some ground and really take the time, especially because it's going to continue to grow. I mean, it's not going anywhere.
Yep.
To find some time, to find some ground in order to help students understand and how to use it.
So I want to go back to something that Ridham said about maybe if assignments being, I think you used the word shallow. It's a great way to phrase it, because what we have seen in some of the trainings and research and talking to school leaders and teachers that are using that, one of the conversations that we're having a lot is, when you have an assignment that there's just one way to do it, it's either right or it's wrong. It's this finite answer. You're putting more pressure. It's more of a high stakes thing then, right, to get it all and get the point. So what are kids going to most likely do? They're going to use AI to help get those answers versus an open-ended project where you can have some sort of mastery. You can fail. There's multiple ways to get to demonstrate your learning. You might be more apt to put AI aside, right? Or just use it for some real low-level type of things for ideas and brainstorming, where you're still doing the learning. And I think that is a difficult concept, I think, for a lot of teachers. I know I've seen some examples out there where teachers are just simply using like a traffic light style, like, hey, this is a green light, AI, go ahead and use it. This is a yellow light, we can use it for certain things, versus a red light, can't use it at all, guys. Come on, we got to do this our own. And so we're seeing certain things like that I think will maybe help with having some sort of consistency. And so there's some sort of agreement between students and teachers. And I don't know if you've seen anything like that in any of your schools or not, and what your thoughts are on that concept.
Yeah. I like how you said shallow assignments, and how when you have more open-ended assignments, it's difficult to use AI since there are multiple right answers. But also that in many classes, like many STEM classes, there's layers to your learning. It's like there's the fundamentals. So like suppose in calculus, I'm taking calculus right now, you can't move on to integrals without knowing how to do derivatives, and you can't move on to the applications without knowing the properties first. And obviously, when you do these questions, they have finite, definite answers. But what I feel I would want from my teachers is to really highlight and emphasize that these are the fundamentals. You need to learn this.
Mhm.
And AI can also, come into play in this. Like I said, I use RemNote to, master the fundamentals so I can move on to the next, layers of learning. So if there's a way where educators can start using AI to, accelerate the process of learning these fundamentals, that's going to save time and also, emphasize on these higher order learning skills that we will need in the future.
Absolutely.
I could add something super fast.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
I also loved like the mention of shallow assignments, because I think one thing that like AI has revealed is a lot of like kind of like the underlying issue in education, which I think is like of the amount of pressure that's put on students nowadays just to achieve, like there's so much, like if you look at academics like now versus maybe 25 years ago, like I talk about this like with my parents a lot, like especially with college, is like the pressure for students to get into like a high percentage school and take like thousands of APs and like juggle all these extracurriculars and just like all this stuff that's put on us. It's like the way that teachers have kind of catered their education now is to fit that standard, which is like assignments that like check boxes rather than actual learning, which I think is kind of like an issue that's like throughout like all of education right now. And I think that AI is almost kind of like revealing that, of like a lot of our assignments, like I find especially like in my school, is like it's just to check off a box, like it's just to get an A, it's just to put it on a college transcript versus like actually learning. So I think like a lot of what AI is revealing is like this idea of shallow assignments and like kind of the need for teachers to change their assignments and like educators as a whole, like administrators, to like change a lot of these course curriculums to like focus, like bring the focus back to learning and like understanding concepts and like applicable things, like things we can take into the future, skills that we can take into life, rather than okay, just like check a box, which I think is like where the problems with AI occur, is just like this whole overall like facet in education of like everything needs to like check a perfect box, I guess.
Yeah, I would also like to add to that. Like, most people are using AI for shallow assignments, and that kind of shows how AI is shaping our future, right? AI is like increasing the base standard of expertise that we need to get a job in the future. Because, if we're just going to use AI for these shallow assignments now, in the future, the things we learn from the shallow assignments are also going to be replaced by AI. So as I said before, it would be much better if we use AI to accelerate, learning the fundamentals, learning the basics first, so we can spend more time on the higher order skills that we will require in the future.
Great response.
Kind of a real quick real world example. I think touches on a lot of the points that have kind of been made in the last couple of minutes. We hear a lot about AI replacing, a lot of entry level type positions that require entry level tasks, right? Entry level tasks could somewhat be equated to the shallow level assignments, but at the same time, you've made multiple comments about AI also being a great extension of your learning, right? Higher functioning tasks. Cade mentioned the creative side of it, getting a chance to spark a flame, to ignite your curiosity, to grow your learning. I think that's a great foothold for educators to consider about what the possibilities of AI could be, getting away from the one size fits all education, but really looking at their student cohort, what their needs are, where they're excelling, where those gaps in learning are. But at the same time, the possibilities that AI could further any type of assignment, any type of curriculum standard that you're working on, based on this partnership with a student educator in their own education, which I think really lends itself to a couple different comments that Caroline just touched on, what the future looks like. what jobs we're preparing ourselves for in the future. I think it's a wonderful conversation. I think you've hit some really good marks as far as not just the nature of education now, but what the future might look like.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that the people who discover this episode like play this in a staff meeting, so teachers can really hear this. And so I'm going to move on to our next question here. What do you think educators, teachers, administrators most often misunderstand about how students are using AI?
Yeah, I'm gonna start off with this one. I feel like a lot of teachers think that AI is the worst thing that could have come into the schools. They think it's the next Terminator, the next world ender. It's the end all be all. But I think that they don't really get how we can use it. Not because like they don't understand it. I just don't think they've had a lot of opportunities to try it, to really use it, to understand it, and then also once they understand it, to help us understand it at a better level. I think a lot of educators would love to use it. Myself, I am an aspiring educator one day. I do want to be a teacher,
Right.
and I'm really interested in how AI might be able to help out my own classroom one day, and how I can make lessons even more entertaining and even more educational for students. And I feel like most teachers just don't really want to even give it a chance to try.
It's a great, great
So
explanation.
let me throw this on. This is for anybody. Obviously, Kate, I'll pick on you a little bit just because you brought it up. We're not also broad brushing educators as sticks in the mud that don't use it, right? I mean, there's thousands of educators who've fallen in love, who make their lives easier, who are create these phenomenal lesson plans that are really, really involved, right? And there's
100%.
thousands, and we know that, right? What can we do as an association, as student leaders, as educators ourselves, to try to get more information to educators? From just off the top of your heads, what are some things that we could do to push more educators in that direction? Is it fundamentals? Is it 101? Is it professional development? What do you think the baseline would be to get more educators on board?
I think one thing that's like really helped me a lot of times is like Matt will give us like guidelines for AI, like specific prompts to tell AI, or like things like I know like when we design some of our leadership stuff of the ways it supplements like your learning. And I think that like the idea of like giving teachers like guidelines of how to use it, and like, hey, like this is what you tell, like this is what you would put in a chat GPT, like with this information, and like this is how you use it. Cause I know like that up until like I would say this fall, like I was still like very much kind of in the dark sometimes with how to use AI and specific things. But like I know that like Matt's helped me a lot, like specific certain teachers in my life that know how to use AI, of like how to use it properly. So I just think like providing educators with kind of like that like layout of like this is how like AI should look, and like this is like how you can use it to better. And I also just think like I think student voice is a huge part. Like I think us doing this, like I think like a lot of educators just like are not even purposeful, but just stuck in like people their own age's opinions, or like stuck in the way things were like in 2000s and the 90s and stuff. So I think just having like active voices always, like I know for example, like I wish like I had maybe the opportunity to like talk to like my teachers in my school. Like I'd love to do that, or like things like that, because like I think that like changes a lot of perspective. So I just think like the open-ended communication is just something that's like very like beneficial, because like when we understand, like teachers better understand, and like when we understand also what they're thinking, we can kind of like provide them with information as well.
Good answer.
Absolutely. And I want to piggyback on something Matt said, because we know there's a lot of people who are really using the power of AI to really help personalize what's going on in the classroom for those students, right? They're finally able, one person to 30 kids, they can finally leverage a tool to help find things that align to certain interests or passions, or people who need more remediation because they're struggling with this concept, where versus people who are getting in, are high flyers that need an extension opportunity. What are you seeing examples where teachers really are leveraging this in a great way to make teaching and learning better in your classroom?
Yes, I think so. I'll just take my AP seminar teacher again. He used, I mentioned this at the our
Oh, you muted yourself accidentally, Nick.
forgive me, sorry. So I'll go back. So I'll give a shout out to my AP seminar teacher because he uses school AI, and I mentioned this at the Catalyst AI Catalyst that we had. So what our AP seminar teacher does is use these prompts and these questions, asking each and every student, how is this assignment going? What are some things that we could work on? What are some things I could help you with personally? Some quick understanding things, not only for him, but to check our understanding, to allow us to not only see what areas we need to grow, but also areas where he can grow as a teacher too. So I think this is super good. This is a super good model that school AI is using, because it helps the teacher. It helps kind of make the teacher like help everyone. It creates this helpful tool for teachers to not only have one teacher in the classroom, but like 21 teachers, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I think that this model that they're using helps people pinpoint each and every student, because it's hard for one person to see what does Johnny need, and what does all these other kids need. How can I do this? And I can't all help one kid at one time, or multiple kids at one time. So this model, I think, is very important for teachers to use, and I think teachers should understand and learn how to use this, because this is very important.
And to go back to our example that we mentioned, Nick, it's your teachers using that for questions to get answers, reflection type of answers. There's no right or wrong answer to that, right? It's not like it's a check-in. It kind of duplicates the teacher. So now there's 21 of them going around meeting with each kid, right? And can get a summary of where they're at. There's no right or wrong answer to the responses you're putting in. And so it's not as high stakes, right? Which is, I think, what we talked about. So that's a great example. I would love to know, kind of going to the last question that I have for you all, and if you can each chime in, that would be awesome. If you could give educators one piece of advice about using AI with students, instead of maybe for those that are trying to control or avoid it, what would you want them to know?
I can start. So I think like the main phrase that I've for my views on this is that like AI is the future no matter what. So we might as well like try to work alongside with it instead of fight it. Because if we fight it, it's just going to lead to cheating. It's just going to lead to frustration. It's just going to get us nowhere. But we can't avoid AI. Like it's here, it exists. So we might as well work alongside it as educators, as students, as administrators, instead of try to fight it. And I think like one example is, so one of my good friends is a freshman at Michigan State and is majoring in accounting. And actually at the business school, he takes a class called like AI, like in business or something. And the class is like, you're required to use AI for it. So like you have to use AI on it. Like you have to use AI on the test. Like you're required to do it. And at first, like he told me that and I was like, that sounds like a joke. Like what? But then like the more and more I thought about it, I was like, wait, that makes so much sense, because it's like how to apply AI in a real world setting. Like how do you take this into accounting? Like what do you use the numbers for it? Like, and that makes so much more sense. And like that like was a big like awakening for me, that like AI is the future. And like as like all of these career paths, like for that example is accounting, like business, things like that, like AI is involved in those careers. So like we might as well like learn how to use it in those careers, and like as educators like understand how to teach our students to equip themselves with the tools for AI rather than just try to fight it.
Absolutely. Awesome. Anyone else?
Yeah, I can also answer this question. In simple words, it would be basically AI isn't just for the workforce, which I feel like, the conversation about AI and education has been around, but also has much deeper, implications in our personal lives too. Um, AI isn't just limited to the workforce. People can and are, using AI in their personal lives to learn new skills, deepen their understanding of things, write research, to create new things and more. And also like, over our secondary school education, we are taught, many more things than just what the syllabus or the curriculum is. We're taught networking, we're taught how to make friends, we're taught how to negotiate, more things like that, right? And if we incorporate AI into our learning, that creates adaptability. The way you might use AI for math is different than how you would use AI for biology or English or economics, things like that. And when you learn to apply AI in those different ways, you're also gonna apply in different ways in your personal lives too. And that, maybe 15 years from now, when you have to learn a new skill, when the new big thing comes along, you can use AI to, accelerate that process of learning that new skill. Or maybe if you want to do something else, you can use AI for that. So yeah, my main message is that AI isn't, just for the workforce. A lot of my teachers say that, students are going to get AI literate no matter what, so I don't have to use AI right now. But that isn't true. AI, as I said, has deeper implications in your personal lives too.
Absolutely. Nick or Arcade?
I'd like to add on to this. If I were to say one thing to my teachers about trying to like actually use it with the students is take an extra like minute to actually like see what your students think about AI and maybe like even have a conversation like we are, talk about how they're using AI in the classroom. Um, Maybe see if they're actually using it in a bad way. Because if a teacher is finding that the students aren't using it right, they might be able to work with the students to use it correctly. And if they're using it in a good way, they're able to work with their students and maybe give prompts and examples on how to continue using it in a good way.
Absolutely. I've always said that like kids will meet high expectations, but you have to clearly tell them the expectations, model the expectations, right? And you guys will do an awesome job to make that happen. So I appreciate that response. How about you, Nick?
I have my notes right in front of me, and I think all of these great people, they said everything that I wanted to say, and more, but I'll reiterate the big thing that I think teachers should know and school leaders should know, is that, again, AI is not going anywhere, first. And I think that if we're very close-minded about AI, and that comes with generations, older teachers probably are going to stay away from AI because they don't know it. So increasing education. But I would say the biggest thing though is if we do get rid of AI, if we eliminate it completely, it becomes this kind of black market thing that now kids are going to start using it in a terrible way, in a way that they don't know. They're almost naive. And so the biggest thing we need to understand is let's understand what AI, how we can use AI first and make it sustainable. And through that, I think it's education, and it's really teaching kids in each and every classroom some prompts that they should use, some ways in order for them to use it, i.e., studying, i.e., making practice tests. So
Awesome. Matt, what am I forgetting to ask these guys? I mean, all their answers have been awesome. They've provided some great insight. I really, really hope principals are able to get this in front of their teachers to listen to, right? But what else am I forgetting to do here, Matt?
I think the only thing we're forgetting to do is to give a big thank you to our board of delegates for taking time out of their evening to join us for this conversation. Obviously, it's something we get very excited about. It adds a lot of energy to the conversation. It gives us a lot of content, a lot of items to chew on. But hopefully, I think the whole point of getting students to engage in this conversation for our membership is hopefully our principals, our educators that got a chance to listen to this episode can take these concepts back, right? They can spark a concept with their educators. They can spark a concept with their students. They can create, from their student populace, they can create a student board. They can draw in, a couple of students from different grades and just engage in that conversation as a stepping stone to ultimately reach some of these same conclusions. This is a partnership. It's not just a partnership between student and AI. It's a partnership between students and educators for what direction that we want to take for the betterment of the future of our kids, which is why we're in this profession to begin with.
Absolutely. And we have resources. If people need a thought partner, they can reach out to MASSP, or obviously they can get a hold of you, Matt, through Michigan Student Leadership. And
we might have to send these kids on tour.
Yeah, that's right. We'll start a road show. Hey, again, thank you so much for taking the time, everybody. Appreciate your insight. I've enjoyed listening to you talk at different events over the year, and I'm excited how you're going to continue to shape the future with all the great leadership things that you are doing. So thank you so much. Appreciate your time today.
thank you.
Thank you for having us again.
Yeah, thank
for
you.
having us.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you for listening to the MASSP podcast. Remember, you can listen to this podcast and others anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Just search for MASSP or hit the subscribe button right now.